Hey everyone, I am here with the first three of the LEGO Star Wars helmets. These are sold independently, individually. It's a new series of products that they've come up with to target some of the adult collector market. And I'm going to go through each one independently, talk about them, and then give you a little bit of comparison and talk about value and my personal thoughts. I will give you a little spoiler just from the start that I personally was not interested in buying any of these. However, someone else was, and that someone else was GK Econ, who is a high-level Patreon supporter and decided to invest one of his high-level rewards into getting this set right here, the Boba Fett helmet, reviewed for all of you. So thanks to GK Econ, and because this one was being reviewed, I decided to go ahead and bundle the rest and do them together. So here we go. So starting with this one then, let's talk a little bit about the build experience for these. Each one has over 600 pieces, and you can expect a roughly 1.5 hour build experience, if not a little bit more than that, depending upon how much of a hurry you're in. They have pretty much identical stands, and the initial parts, the very first pieces that you put together, are similar between all three. However, after that, they start to diverge significantly, even between the two Imperial ones that you might think would be very similar. They're actually not. They have similarities, to be sure, but there are quite some differences. And this Boba Fett one is, of course, different, even more different from those other two. And it's enjoyable. You know, you build in all directions. There's some clip-wise construction. There's a little bit of upside-down construction on some of them. And the coolest thing that's unique about this Boba Fett one is that you can bring this down. So that's really nice, and it's integrated in very well with a sideways hinge joint right here. It's in the right place, maybe just a little bit high, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty cool. This one has the least mass of the three, but it's pretty striking with its colors, and I feel like the shaping is good. And again, it is enjoyable to put together, and I'm glad that they didn't make it look too clean. This is supposed to be the Empire Strikes Back version, and they did a really nice job with the striping on the side, with all that studs on the side construction and some half stud offsets with jumpers in there, so that worked out pretty well. I figure for a lot of people it'll be displayed on a desk or something, so a lot of the time you'll be looking at this from a higher angle. I figured this would be useful to see here, see a little bit more of the top and just more of what you would normally see for this thing when it's just sitting around. But then again, for some people, it'll be mounted up on a shelf or something in a bookcase. So that's when you get more down to its level, if not a little bit below. And I actually think this is the best view for this thing. It's the most glorious. It helps to separate the helmet itself from the base. Maybe these bases could have been made a little bit taller so you could get that separation effect visually more consistently from more angles. It's not too difficult at all to customize that, though, to just add more pieces. There is some nice technic stability that's built into the core of that. It's not just a bunch of bricks that are built up on top of each other. They've actually locked that together. So this is very, very sturdy. It does not want to come apart. You don't have to worry about earthquakes causing this to loosen up or anything like that. It's not going to fall over. Like the durability here is excellent. It's very sturdy. And even from this lower angle, okay, you start to see a little bit of stuff of the inside of the front there, but you're not seeing weird colors underneath. And even if you go all the way completely underneath, so if you mount it up really, really high, if you look around the back, okay, you see a little bit of stuff that maybe you don't want to see, but from normal angles, it's pretty good. I think it's done with reverence to be, people who really want to display this and want it to look good. And finally, the plaque down here at the base is a printed piece, and that's exclusive to each of the sets. It's too bad that they have a little copyright notice off to the corner, because that kind of detracts from it a little bit, in my opinion. No stickers in this particular set. The Stormtrooper helmet has like 20 more pieces, I think it is, but it feels significantly more massive than the Boba Fett one. I will come back to showing you comparisons side by side for a few things later on, but for now we'll just continue to focus on one at a time. Again, this is intended to be from Empire Strikes Back. That's the variant that they're going for with this. And this one does have a fair number of stickers used with it. And I will point out what those are. The build for this, completely different from very early on. From the Boba Fett version. A little bit of the top of the head is the same. Other than that, yeah, it's like a different thing. It's not like with the brickheads where they have a common core and then most of the exterior details are done in very similar ways with a little bit of variation for just special ones. No, this definitely took quite a bit of time and quite a bit of care went into it. A lot of experimentation. It was very satisfying putting this together, especially how the sides fit up with the mouth parts, which are angled as viewed from the top and also angled as viewed from the side. And yet all these wedge plates just come together to really fill up the gaps very, very nicely. Very, very satisfying. Just a good feeling doing some of the final assembly for this. For the mouth, there are 2 identical printed 2x2 tile pieces, and they're just right in there. That and that. Those are the same piece. Their prints are not aligned perfectly, but once you put it into context, it ends up not mattering. So they got away with one there. And then you can see the corner of the mouth here. That is a sticker right there that's applied. And then there's another one over here. I do recommend that you wait if you're going to buy this and assemble it. Wait until you have this all together before you apply those stickers so you can align them ideally, as close as possible, because you really want that to work right. If you don't, basically if you just try to center the stickers like we're used to doing, it's not going to look this good. It's not going to line up well at all. And then continuing on with stickers, you can see for the vents on the sides. So they've got 4 stickers on either side, and be careful about mixing those up. I did mix them up. Fortunately, I was doing this as a live build, which did distract me, but also gave me the benefit of a little bit of crowdsourcing. So some folks were able to catch that and help me to put the right ones in the right place. Again, going to a higher angle, this is how many people will see this on display, especially up close. And it is finished pretty well. You do see some interior build colors, unfortunately, which does kind of stand out for this one. There are some black parts and some gray parts in there that I kind of wish had been done in white, just because of how visible they are, like in the little cracks, just around the edges and corners. No matter how tightly you push things together, there's always going to be a little bit of variation in there. And it just would have been better, would have looked better if those interior pieces had been done in white, but at least they're not super colorful. Interestingly, the initial build for these is very colorful, but they don't have any brightly colored parts too close to the surface, fortunately. I will say also about this one, regarding all of that, all the white pieces and the fact that there's a ton of asymmetry in the sub-assemblies involved here does get a little bit confusing. I'd say this is the most difficult one to build, or it's the hardest to follow the build for this one, the easiest to make a mistake, especially if you're not focusing 100%, because you really need to do a lot of stud counting, and eyes can play tricks on you when it's just white on white on white. Lots of 1x1 plates have to be added in individually to fill in some spaces, some before, some after assembly onto the main core. So yeah, just a little bit more challenge, but I think it's worth it in the end. And then here's the lower view for this one, a little bit below its vertical midpoint. And again, I think this is the better view for it, the better angle to look at it. It looks a little bit more sleek. You can see that the proportions actually are right. I feel like from above, relative to angles that we're used to seeing in Stormtroopers, it looks fat, it looks too thick, but it actually isn't. I think that the proportions on this are actually as close as reasonably could be expected from Lego parts for this scale, which is pretty darn good. It's not so small that you have to worry about the size of Lego pieces. It's like the thickness of a plate or the width of half a stud. That's the resolution that we're dealing with in the X and Y axes on this. And I think it is done quite well, and again, presents well. The TIE Fighter pilot helmet uses the most pieces by quite some margin of the three, but doesn't take too much longer to put together. It has one, for me at least, major surprise in its construction techniques. We will definitely get to that. But if you look at this in detail, you can see some things that are similar in the build to the Stormtrooper that you would think would be, you would expect certainly, but there are plenty of limitations to that. It doesn't go very far, the similarities. It's mostly like the mouth and a little bit about the eyes, but most of the build here is unique. And I think if I were to look at the instructions and compare things very finely, I would see even less than I perceived as actually putting this together. And it's pretty good. I think that around the side here, there's a little bit of gapping that feels a little bit awkward to me, but I have not checked that versus the reference material. It just looks like a little bit of a strange gap. But overall, the thing still presents well. These, fortunately, are prints up there. They, once again, have 2 prints used for the mouth, and once again, have 2 stickers used for the mouth. So stickers are used for the corners there. And unfortunately, in this case, things are a little bit more obvious. So what happens is the black of the print against the gray tile pieces is not as dark as we would like it to be, ideally. And when you compare that to a black sticker against a black background, and also against darker vinyl or darker base for it, then you can really see a difference between those. And here, the alignment of the prints ended up being a problem because I ended up with that big gap. So that should be connected. This black here, let's see if I can get that right. There we go. This black here should be the same as this black here, and there should be no gray between them. And it's noticeable. It's definitely noticeable. It's less noticeable on this side because I got better luck with that printed piece. So there's not that big of a gap. You just really notice the difference in color. But I think it's one of those things where once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I do wish that it was better. But this side is worse. I know some viewers don't like it when I criticize anything that Lego does, but I think that that level of nitpicking criticism is more warranted in a situation like this than on almost any set that I've reviewed in the past, because this is new for Lego to move in the what they outwardly call 18 plus as a direction for marketing these. These are intended to be high-end collector items for adults, not saying that adults are the only people who are able to build these, not by any means, or who should buy these, not by any means, but that's how they're presenting these things in the market, and thus they're competing against true collector items and display items. So you end up having to pay for that. We'll talk about the prices and the value, but the more you pay for prestige, the higher quality you expect, and in my opinion, the more right you have to criticize things that don't meet expectations. Now for the good angle, does this one follow the same trend, the same pattern? Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. That looks strong. I like that. All the bits of glare that come across it, reflections, very nice. For black on black, it's easy for things like this to not be particularly visible, but fortunately, Lego pieces are very glossy by default in general, and that really helps. Now for the thing that kind of disarmed me when I got to that step, when I got to that final bag of building, which includes these hoses. I thought these hoses were new parts. I was excited about that, but they're not new parts at all. Inside of each of those tubes is just, you can see it, right here from this angle, you can see that there are some gray bits, some light gray bits. Those are just regular flexible tubes, the thin ones that are bar sized. They're bent around, and then you just have on each side 18, these are train wheels, small train wheels. Just a ton of them. So the great thing about that is that those train wheels, which have had some cost, some value on Bricklink, will now be much more prevalent, much more available. And as long as not too many people try to do this exact same technique for their custom builds, the prices of those little wheels will probably go down because there's going to be a lot more supply out there. But yeah, it was absolutely disarming, because it wasn't until I got to that final bag that I discovered just what they were doing here. I did kind of realize that I wasn't seeing the tubes that I was expecting, but I wasn't looking for them initially. I really waited until the end, and then I pulled out that bag, opened it up, and saw another bag inside with all these wheels. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming at all. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. But just a little bit embarrassing to me that I didn't notice that from the pictures. Before I get to summing up and talking about value and my personal thoughts, I did promise to show you some side-by-sides a little bit more closely. Now that we've got more context, hopefully you can see a little bit better just how different these are, even though these are based on the same visual design, the same design language in how the props were done. You'll struggle to see similarities or identical portions of this between the builds. So there's no expense spared in developing these and designing them. They were truly separate efforts with just commonalities, again, mostly between the eyes and the mouth parts. Little bit of similarity in how these sides around the breathing apparatus were built up. Obviously the same scale is used there. The same curvature is used on the real ones. So they shouldn't have been too different. But most of the bulk here, most of the head, most of what you spend time actually putting together is quite different between the two. And then lastly, for the sake of comparison, again, just reinforcing how much smaller the Boba Fett helmet appears relative to the others. Even though these two here have very similar piece counts, there are more here, but it's not a tremendous difference. There is a relatively large difference compared to this, and a lot of that comes down to all these repeated pieces that are used for the breathing tubes. But just if you're looking for a maximum bang for your buck, don't look at the part counts, look at the finished products. Lastly, here are the spare parts, and I realize that I didn't order these things left to right consistently through the video, but you can see very clearly from the colors which goes with which, and you can see that the Stormtrooper is the Stickermeister of the three. All right, let's get down to some serious business here. These cost $60 US each, and I personally do not think they are worth that. The price to part ratios look fine for these. I'd say they look rather good. And yeah, they do have a lot of 1x1 plates, 1x2 plates that thereby don't contribute significantly to the volume of them, much less the mass. But it's just the end results. The amount of stuff that I end up with here for $60 doesn't feel worth it. It feels a little bit more worth it to me here, a little bit here as well. Definitely not here. This feels like the worst value just because it's so small. And speaking of size, check this out. Yeah, let me just move this out of the way for a moment. So I'm going to align these equidistant to the camera. So you see the box. You see the box in the store, and you're like, oh wow, that's serious. The box art I think is really cool. I feel like these packages are practically collectible themselves. Like a lot of people probably want to hold on to those if they like these things. But $60 US feels like a lot to me for what you get. And okay, they're going for the collector market, yeah? So these are going to compete against collector busts, that are not from Lego. things like this, or things of this size that are not from Lego, that are intended to represent models, that are intended to represent props and such, like scaled down prop replicas. And so, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be doing this. There we go. So I have to consider that. I have to consider the market that they're going for in order to be fair. But to be fair, nobody else is going to be doing stuff of this size if it's not like a Funko Pop, which is a different scale entirely. But if it's not super deformed, something like this that's trying to be a scaled down replica of a prop is going to look like a scaled down replica of a prop. It's not going to have all these studs all over it. It's not going to have gaps. It's not going to have stickers. It's not going to have tiering. It's going to be proper. It's going to be more like just a scaled down real thing, which is what collectors would be looking for in that type of item. So these are very specific in that they're going for people who get a kick out of Lego in some way or another, yet who want something that is serious, that is display worthy, that is like a replica prop, and yet it's expensive and is not very big, and they have stickers. At least two of them have stickers. And the other one is relatively small. So I just feel like these have a lot working against them. Let me bring them in closer to me, just so you can get that better understanding of the size. Because I can always do this, and it's like, oh man, these things are huge. Look at this. It's like a full-sized helmet. That's awesome. And $60 for that? No way. No, you'd have to pay at least twice that to even be in the realm of reasonability for something of that size. And you bring it down like this, and then this is kind of like, this is more like what I was expecting, like maybe half scale, something like that. But they're third scale. So bring it right up against here. I'll put it next to my head, and the black one is a good one because it stands out. Is it half scale or is it third scale? I feel like it's third scale. These helmets are actually really big and bulky. So they're small, and then you look at this one, it's smaller still. It's like cute little thing on my shoulder, So for me, I think that as Lego products, as Lego builds, they went together nicely. They're well designed and they look good for what they are. But the price doesn't match to me, and the sticker quality and print quality is not where it needs to be for something that's truly premium. If they're really going absolutely premium and expecting us to pay more because they're adult products, they're fully grown up products, they're not for kids anymore. This is serious Lego here. This is serious Lego. Then I would expect that sticker and that print to match, or for it not to be a sticker and a print, but rather just all a print. That is one. See, I've always been someone who has defended stickers to some degree within reason. I've never been as vehemently opposed to stickers as it seems most Lego fans are. But for premium prices, I can't accept that. They need to do better than that. Doesn't matter if it's Lego, doesn't matter who it is. If you're going to go up market and commit to it. And they have not done that here. Good effort. Very good effort. Not quite where it needs to be, especially for the prices. You can check out builds for these. I think this is the one that I did as a build on this channel with chat. So it's like twice as long as it should be. I think it took an hour longer than I should have because I was interacting with people a lot. That's not a good one to watch as a pure build, but these, or as a real-time build, these were done as real-time builds over on the Pure Builds channel. And all three of them have equally timed speed builds over on the JANG Builds It channel. So if you just want to see quickly how these things went together, doesn't matter which one you pick, you'll be seeing them go by in similar amounts of time and get a similar feel for the interiors. And you'll see the similarities. If you look at multiple, you'll see the similarities, and then you'll see how much they diverge between them. Thank you for watching. I hope that this was valuable to you. If you agree with my opinion, if you disagree with my opinion about the value or how they look, their size, anything like that, please leave a comment down below. Always looking forward to seeing that. as are other viewers. So, good to get that interaction and see more different people sharing different points of view. Thank you, and I will talk to you again as soon as I can, as always.